Hey everybody, M&M across the board, Ashley Miller, Eric McDowell, Sean Martin. We have a very special guest this week who we are going to start with. I'll let Sean introduce him in just 1 second, but huge news of the week, guys. The NFL, we've got all kinds of shakeups. They involve the biggest quarterbacks, two of the biggest quarterbacks in the league, and we're going to talk MLB, and there hasn't been a decision yet as of Wednesday at 12:30. That could change any minute. But we're going to talk all of the proposed weird rule changes as well. Let's start with our guest. Sean, go ahead. Make the grand introduction here.
But before that, is the biggest news Syracuse is winning, though? Given
the biggest news, yes. Currently, Syracuse is winning. That could change also any moment.
Now to the bigger news. Let's welcome Sean Farrell, US Olympic hockey player by way of Harvard University hockey and Hopkinton, Massachusetts. Sean, how you doing this morning or today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, no worries. Hey, I just want to get a kind of an overview of your experience with Team USA in Beijing, and how was all that getting to have that experience?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I think obviously a little bit crazy with how everything came together with the NHL dropping out, and then within a few weeks it seemed like they were going to go with a bunch of college players. So to be able to get that opportunity kind of out of nowhere was amazing. And the whole experience in general is just so awesome. It was great to be with a lot of the other college guys that, I've kind of known playing with and against them. And then also playing with a bunch of those pro guys as well. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah. How much lead time did you have before what they're doing? And then you find out you're going and then you're out of there?
I want to say I found out a couple weeks before. So I found out like on a Sunday afternoon after we just played a weekend at Harvard, and then within 2 weeks we were out in LA getting ready to go to Beijing.
Sean, as a hockey player, listen, the NHL is obviously a goal, an ultimate goal for you. But growing up in the United States, you have that 1980 team. Did you ever think about being an Olympian? And was that ever a goal, knowing like, okay, normally they don't use college players. Normally you have to wait till you get to the NHL. And like you said, this opportunity was it came a little bit out of the blue and probably much earlier than you would have ever expected.
Yeah, definitely. I think growing up, it's always been a dream of mine to play in the Olympics. I think everyone grows up watching Miracle hundreds of times. And then also just like growing up watching the Olympics, them winning silver in Vancouver in 2010 was a pretty big deal for American hockey as well. So I think obviously down the road that would have been one of my goals to play in the Olympics one day, but to have that opportunity at such a young age it was really crazy.
Well, Sean, first you got to give a shout out to Jeff Weinstein, who both Sean and Ashley know, and he was my assistant at Union, and so hope you're enjoying working with him. I want to be perfectly frank for people watching, okay? With the challenging academics and playing a sport, just describe for people the experience of being a student athlete at Harvard University.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult at times, but I think with the team we have here and the support staff we have around us, it's something that you get used to. I think we do a really good job as a team helping each other through classes and making sure that we're with each other and we can study with each other. And I think like coming into school, even last year when we weren't on campus, I had so many of our older players reaching out to me and helped me to choose classes and help me with my advisors and stuff like that. So I think just like the group we have here has made it a lot easier for me to transition into that kind of difficult time managing lifestyle.
When you were in Beijing, did you have to keep up on your course workload?
I tried as best I could, but the Wi-Fi wasn't helping me as much as it could have as well. So I was definitely behind when I got back. So I've been playing catch up here for the past couple of weeks, and having break next week will help me get back to where I need to be.
Sean, was that a tough decision for you? Listen, you're part of a college team who is also playing for something. And I got to imagine it's not entirely difficult, but there has to be something that weighs on you when you're going to leave your team for 3 weeks as they're trying to make a push?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously you can't turn down playing for the United States, especially at the Olympic level. And I think, I mean, me and Nick, who both went over, we had all the confidence that our team would do well while we were gone. And I think we did. We won a ton of games while we were gone. And then we seem to have picked up right kind of where we left off. I think it was unfortunate that we missed the bean pot. That's huge. And it's still like a dream of mine to play in that. So I guess that was the biggest thing that we missed. But now that we got everyone back and everyone's healthy, I feel like we're in a really good spot here for playoffs.
Now, normally Olympic teams, we had talked recently about one of the women's volleyball teams get to go all the different campuses. They have a whole year together. They get to play different AHL, NHL teams. When the NHL decided no go, all of a sudden your coaching staff gets a mishmash of great talent, but picking out the lines, who you're going to play with. Just describe about the job the coaching staff did, and then the tremendous start you guys had. You hadn't been together that long at all.
Yeah. I think the coaches did a great job of bringing us together right when we touched down in LA. Like practices were hard. We were competing with each other, and I think it's easy to play with guys that are that talented and that skilled. So I think wherever you were in the lineup, you were going to be playing with some good players. So you kind of showcase what you could do in practice, and then moving to the tournament, I think we all had really clear expectations of what our roles are as each player. And I think the coaches did a really good job of that. And that resulted in a really good start for us. But, it was really unfortunate the way it ended.
Now, I want to ask you what is like the feeling to score an Olympic goal, but you did better than that in your first game. You get a hat trick and then a couple of helpers. Against China. Just describe that experience, and how do you think the whole Olympic dynamic did it make you a better player, you think, going forward in your career?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think going in, I would have been happy with getting one goal there, and then the first game was pretty nuts. I feel like everything that was on my stick ended up in the goal somehow, so it was really crazy. And then in terms of going forward in my career, I think that experience helped me out a ton. I think playing against professional players, you kind of realize how big and strong they are, as well as like how good their sticks are. Like you got to be really strong on pucks on the wall and make sure you're making good, strong plays all over the rink.
Sean, I know there were no real fans, you know what I mean, in the rink, no public fans in the rink, but in terms of everything else, and obviously you're in a pandemic over in China, which is difficult in itself, but did it live up to at least some of the expectations that you had going over there?
Yeah, definitely. I think just like being in the dining hall with all those other athletes, I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me was the opening ceremony. I think everyone there had goosebumps walking out with the music playing and into that huge stadium. So that was really awesome as well. So I think overall, I mean, it would have been awesome to have fans there, but like playing in the Olympics in general, it's enough to definitely get the adrenaline going.
Now, I grew up on Cape Cod, and you're a Mass guy as well. And as you know, we were taught the Montreal Canadiens were not a popular team to us. They were our nemesis. Sean and I know from going way back, we won't share some of those nightmares, but it's got to be interesting to you because, hopefully you'll be wearing that famous Montreal sweater and, and reading highlights about you, the Gazette. It's like you're already a member of their family. So it is one of the most historic franchises, of course, in all of sports. Just talk about when you were drafted by that franchise and what it means to you.
Yeah, I think that was a really special moment for me. Everyone grows up with the dream of playing in the NHL, and getting drafted is like one of those stepping stones. So I think I was really fortunate to be picked by the Canadiens. I think what they're doing with their organization right now is taking a bunch of the steps in the right direction, and they got a really good young team, and hopefully I can fit into that somehow in the future here.
All right, hey, Sean, we're based in Albany. You guys got a big series coming up this weekend with RPI right in our backyard. I saw Harvard a couple weeks ago. You guys look real good. You got 4 goals on there in the first period up here in Troy. Talk about that series, and you're looking forward to getting into the playoff action now after a bye week.
Yeah, definitely. We're super excited. Obviously, we have a ton to play for. They do as well. Kind of needing to win the ECAC to get in the national tournament. So everything's going to be on the line this week, and it's going to be physical. The game's going to be fast, and I think our team's ready to go. And it's really excited that we get to play in our home building for 2 or 3 games. So we're ready. We're excited, and it's going to be a fun weekend.
You split with those guys during the regular season, a 2-0 loss, but that was, ended January. And I think these two teams are very different. Do you feel like you match up well against the Engineers in terms of, obviously we said a 5-1 win at the end of February, which you're a little closer removed from?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we can match up with any team in the country. I think we have enough skill and talent to kind of play with anyone and play at a really high pace. I think the biggest thing for us will be playing physical and making sure that we're playing simple as well. I think no matter how good a team is, all playoff games are going to come down to 1 or 2 goal games. So we just need to make sure that we're doing everything the right way.
Well, Ted Donato knows a thing or two about playoffs. Of course, yeah. Playing with the Bruins, played NHL. Those of us who remember as a player, you could see that there were skills that he would bring into coaching. He's done a tremendous job with stability at Harvard. Just talk about playing for somebody like that. And, of course, all his sons, of course, Ryan and the other ones, your teammates. Talk about playing for Coach Ted Donato.
Yeah, it's been awesome. He was the one that recruited me back in the day, and I think first off, always just been an awesome guy to be around. Just even away from the rink, he's a really positive influence on our team, a funny guy, a great person to be around in general. And then I think for our team, obviously he's had so much experience at the NHL level and had so much success in college as well. So he knows how to get us going, and I think he'll definitely, have a plan, have us ready for these big games coming up.
Yeah. Sean, can you go back to when do you remember the first time you laced up your skates and you got into the sport? Could you have ever dreamed that even way back when, 6, 7, 8 years old, that you'd be doing this, playing college hockey, going to the Olympics, NHL draft? At what point did you say, hey, I'm pretty good at this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I started off really young. I think probably I was about 3 or 4. I was on my grandparents' lake in Milford, and my cousins played growing up. My parents never played, so they threw me in all their old gear, and I shuffled around out there on the lake. But I think in terms of all this coming true, I think just growing up in Massachusetts, it's such a hockey hotbed where I was going to BC games, Harvard games, BU games, kind of any college game that we could get to when I was little. So that's always been a goal of mine. And then as I gotten older and older, I think, the NHL, that dream has kind of started to take shape as well. So it's kind of cool how it all unfolded. I think living in Massachusetts has definitely played a huge part in that.
Sean, you also played in the USHL and had tremendous success, Player of the Year. What's the biggest difference in any capacity? I don't know if it would be X's and O's or speed or physicality between the USHL and college hockey, because I don't think a lot of people outside of hockey really understand the difference between the two.
Yeah, well, I think one of the main differences is like in the USHL, we're playing about 60 games, and in college we have probably high 20s, 30s. Yeah. So every game in college means so much more that teams are really dialed in right from the beginning of the season. Everyone's playing physical every night. You really can't take a night off because those points will really hurt at the end of the season. Just some random game that you could have dropped, say, in the first week of the season. So I think that's the biggest difference, is just you really have to bring your A game every single night.
Well, I like how you set up an office. We call it an office because you're always in front of the net. You get in the passes and you convert. And curious, I know we're going to feel old when you mention some of these players, but who would you say, number one, would be the players that you excite you the most in the NHL, and players that you try to emulate as well?
Yeah, there are a ton of guys. I think growing up, being from Boston, obviously I love watching the Bruins, Bergeron, Marchand, just so fun to watch. Those guys do everything right. And then I think, as a smaller player, I've also liked to watch, Gaudreau, Kane, some of those guys who do a really good job of avoiding contact and still making plays.
Sean, he said Johnny Gaudreau, and that's who I was thinking, right? We remember him from the 14 run. Great,
unbelievable player.
Great analogy, Sean.
Yeah, unbelievable player. What could you imagine doing anything other than this at this point? Is hockey just put it in context? You're a student at Harvard.
I'll say, what's your major?
What is your major?
Yeah, I major in econ.
I could never.
You're talking to a mass communications guy here. That's beyond me. I
can't. School. Not quite.
Is it? Was there any point we talked about you growing up? Any point where you say, "I want to be a hockey player"? A lot of people say that, but when do you think you might have said that definitively as you grew up?
I don't know. I feel like it was pretty early on. It's always been a huge part of my identity. I think we were actually talking about that in the dorm the other day. We were all saying we'd have no idea what we'd be doing if we weren't playing hockey. It's just been a part of our lives now for so long, and it's been awesome. I've learned so much through hockey, and I'm so happy to keep playing, and I want to play as long as I can.
That's great, Sean. I have a feeling whatever you'd be doing, you'd be a success at it too. So that's awesome.
You'll be the one Canadiens player that these two will root for ever in their lives.
That is right.
It'll pain me, but I will.
All right.
Hey, I'm just impressed that a Harvard guy mentioned a BC guy in Gaudreau. For anybody watching this, be careful.
Talent knows talent. You can appreciate it, right?
Yeah, Boston's one big family, I suppose, in the overall sense, right?
Yeah, I guess so, a little bit.
Is Hopkinton where the marathon starts or finishes? The Boston Marathon.
It's a start, yeah.
Right on South Street, right?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Good knowledge, Eric.
Very good.
Very good. All right, Sean, listen, thanks for your time. We really appreciated having you. And you know what? Go make the NCAAs and come on up to Albany for the regional. Maybe we'll get to say hello.
There you go. We'll see you there.
Thank you, say on Cape Cod. Go Harvard.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
You got it. Have a great day. Good luck.
Have a good one.
Bye now.
Awesome. That really was cool. Good guess, Sean.
The first
and thank you to Jeff Weinstein.
Yes.
True story, and Sean and I did talk about it. As luck would have it, I used to actually work with his grandfather. Not that long ago, probably 15 years ago, and the business was located right on South Street in Hopkinton. Right, that's how I knew South Street. Huh? I'm not that smart, but that right where the marathon would start. So his grandfather's a great guy, and Jeff Weinstein, thank you, Harvard. Jeff helped us set it up. So
yes,
too bad he wasn't trained well, but. Jeff's career record as a hockey Sid between us, and he worked with Red Berenson, of course, before he retired. He's got a pretty good winning percentage, folks.
He does. All right, folks. Hey, let's hear from our good friends at Johnstone Supply in Troy. It's never too early to start thinking about summer and AC. I love the optimism. Call now for preseason pricing on John Goodman Central ACs, or if you're looking to go with Fujitsu mini splits, they've got that too. The best quality products at unbeatable prices. And if you're a homeowner that's mulling your options and want to get hooked up with a local contractor that can figure out your family's needs, call Johnstone and they've got you covered. And as always, lowest prices on Milwaukee tools guaranteed.
Just an update for you. Syracuse is up 23 at the half, so I'm going to never watch a Syracuse game again.
Okay.
They have a problem closing double-digit leads, though, so we'll see how it goes. But 23, that's tough to blow.
Okay, very good.
Are we ready for some football?
Ready for some football.
And there's a ton of it. Yes.
Where do we start?
Well, first we have to congratulate Rodgers and the Packers because they kissed and made up. It was like watching Billy Martin and George Steinbrenner. Fire, goodbye. I hate you. I love you. So guys can get into that. But Moments after the signature, the ink dried, Denver just pounced. Unbelievable how quickly they were ready to go. Russell Wilson it's one of the biggest star name blockbuster trades, and I'm going to throw a few names. Sean will agree when Michael Haynes went to the Raiders. That made a big difference there. Eric Dickerson of the Colts when the Pats got Randy Moss. Wilson is 33, and I know the chatter from Carroll and the organization about him not going anywhere. Nobody believed it. You could see in recent years with his mannerisms, and he spoke up more, complained about the line. The marriage was dissolving. But look at what he's done. And I know it's the West Coast thing. 9 Pro Bowls, 10 years. Won the Super Bowl, should have won the other, but I'm not complaining about that ill-fated pass. He holds the record for wins by a QB through 9 years in the NFL's history, and only 4 have a career passing rating over 100. The guy's a stud. The division's 3 other teams made the playoffs, so maybe they looked and said, it's rebuild time. And Seattle has replenished the draft picks that they lost in the Adams deal with the Jets, of course. So Noah Fant's a pretty good pickup at tight end.
Yeah.
But it's safe to say that Drew is not a lock at QB, and he's 0 for 3 in this fan club. So good for Denver. They make another deal to bring in a quarterback that they hope will be like Elway and Manning. What do you think, folks?
Yeah, and I'm gonna go first because I know Mr. Sound Off with Martin over there is gonna go bananas. Listen, he's 33. I just think, listen, he makes them better. There is no question about it. He is an infinitely, they're not even on the same planet, Drew Lock and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson is a top 10 quarterback in the league. That team is automatically better today than they were yesterday. But they gave away the freaking franchise to get him. Noah Fant is a fantastic player. I don't care about Drew Lock. You're just opening a position. That's fine. And Shelby Harris, 5 draft picks, 2 1s, 2 2s, and a 5th rounder. That's a lot of draft picks. Like, you're not going to have a 1st or 2nd round pick for the next 2 years. So if you think that team is good enough now to win, okay, then you're in good shape. But they're not. And that's the problem. They're not good enough now to win just because they've added Russell Wilson. He's a 33-year-old guy. Your window is, I'm going to say, 3 to 4 years max with him.
Yeah.
You're not going to win this season. So now you're in a 2 to 3 year window. You better get a heck of a lot better in the next 2 to 3 years if you think you're going to compete in that division and with the rest of the AFC. Mr. Raider?
Mr. Raider. I'm ecstatic. Because I think he's a little, we talked about him, I don't know how long ago it was, a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever. Mm-hmm. He's a very good quarterback. He's in the top half of the league. But he's not, I don't think he's as good as his reputation says it is. Okay. They haven't, the Super Bowl was what, 2013, 2014. Mm-hmm. The thing I heard this trade and I saw what they gave up, and my first thought was Herschel Walker.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Where Dallas created a dynasty with all the picks they got from Minnesota. Now Seattle didn't get as many from Denver, but 2 1s and 2 2s, that's a lot. Mm-hmm. That's how you build your team, is through the draft capital. Noah Fant's a great tight end. You're right, Ashley. Drew Lock, I was praying that Denver would give him a lifetime contract. 10 years. I'd have helped. I'd have thrown some money their way to help lock him up, pun intended. So, yeah, I'm ecstatic because I think it's gonna blow up on Denver and it's going to turn into a bad deal. And I've called Russell Wilson a celebrity quarterback before. That's just kind of tied to who he's married to. Ashley, you said the window might be 4 years. Is he going to want to play for 4 years?
I don't know. I think it's 3 or 4. But listen, Aaron Rodgers is 38 years old. Like,
yeah, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't seek out the limelight the way Wilson does. Well, you know what?
Are you kidding me?
I'm wrong.
What
Sorry.
did he say?
He seeks out more limelight than anybody on the planet.
Yeah, I'm talking going to award shows and stuff.
Yeah, it's in a different. Well, listen, that comes with he's just being a good husband. That comes with who you're married to, also.
I think he likes getting his picture taken too.
If Rodgers married Shailene Woodley, he'd be on the red carpet events too.
He would hopefully get a haircut beforehand. But you're right. I digress. No, I think it's going to be a bad move for Denver. I think they're happy about it today.
Yeah,
but I don't. I think reality is going to set in once they can't help build a. You got to be able to have pieces around you.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how happy they are. I think is what stunned me the most is I mean, there were people like who think like, don't give me Super Bowl contender. I don't want to hear it. They're not a Super Bowl contender. If they compete in the division, they will be lucky. And Russell Wilson will help them do that. But I'm still not convinced that they're better than the best team in that division. I'm not saying they're not going to be as good as the Raiders, because I think they could be as good as the Raiders. But I just don't think it doesn't make them a Super Bowl contender. I don't want to hear it.
No, you can't even get out of the division. You've got Mahomes, you've got Carr. I mean, you've got a lot of solid quarterbacks. But
Herbert.
The pick this year, and Herbert, of course. Yeah. The pick this year is number 9. Okay, plus it's a down year for QB. So the top rated.
And that's what I was going to say.
The top
Seattle's
rated.
Not getting a quarterback out of this.
No, the top rated quarterback you have at that slot is Malik Willis of Liberty. Okay, Liberty. I'm not going to do the song like the ad, but it's a fairly big adjustment to go from an FBS independent schedule to the NFL. So the question is, do they deal? San Fran won't deal in the division. Do they take a tease on Carson Wentz or Sam Darnold? It does not sound appetizing, and I don't know what their plan is.
No, their plan's a total rebuild. They released Bobby Wagner last night. He's gone, and I've heard DJ Metcalf might be a trade bait. And hey, come to Vegas, buddy. We'll give you the first round.
But now they've got money. I mean, they've got some money to spend, which is the good news.
Well, the quarterback market you're saying is right. The draft doesn't have it. The free agent, hey, maybe they can take your guy Teddy Bridgewater because he's looking for a job. And yeah, look, for Denver, I get the excitement because you went from Drew Lock to Russell Wilson.
Yes.
Okay, and then Drew Lock, you ever really watch him play football? Whew, that's really.
It was like Tebow.
Yeah, he was terrible. But still, it's Seattle's in a clear rebuild, and why not, right? Yep. The rest of that division's loaded. You moved out a 33-year-old quarterback who I don't think wanted to be there any longer, and now you can do your thing through the draft and everything. But
listen, they had like Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. They have talent on the offensive side of the ball. Russell Wilson hasn't played with an offensive line in 5 years, so it will be an upgrade no matter what. So I think those are the things that will make a difference for him. And the guy throws the deep ball as good as anyone in the NFL. There's no doubt. He can improvise. He can do things that Drew Lock and nobody else on that roster could ever imagine of doing. So it's an upgrade, like we said, but this rebuild is going to take a long time in Seattle, because unless they get some gift from God to fall out of the sky that is going to play quarterback for them, then
well, they were 3 games. They were basically an afterthought in that division this year.
Yes.
And they can look and say, we can try to compete, but there's no predicting. I think it's the way to go, is just fresh start. I'm surprised Carroll hasn't departed yet.
Same here.
And another name to float at you a trade could be Baker Mayfield, because things aren't going well out there. Again, I think he was hurt, but he is a guy that likes redemption. And if he goes to Seattle, you could maybe get something out of Baker Mayfield, another guy. But there's not a lot of attractive options out there now.
No, I saw a headline today that said, source, Giants to make run at Mitchell Trubisky. And I thought, who the hell are they competing with to try to get Mitchell Trubisky? Apparently more people than I thought. Apparently Mitchell Trubisky is a hot commodity.
Sean, maybe she misread it. It said make a run from Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, run away from.
I have Twitter.
And I get it. If you're the Giants and you're gonna give the guy a 1-year contract, throw the money at him and see what sticks, because it can't be any worse than Daniel Jones. So if Mitch Trubisky comes in and is a decent quarterback for a year, and you want to give him a couple more years while also drafting someone after the Daniel Jones failed experiment, if you deem it that, then fine. But he could go to some place like Seattle, and you could try to start over with a guy like Mitch Trubisky.
They'll fumble the money.
I have Twitter up. I'm waiting for the MLB to come to their senses. Here's the tweet that I'm looking at. When did Mitchell Trubisky become a prize? I feel like I'm in the land of make-believe. You saw this guy in Chicago, but I'm supposed to believe this guy is different. Nasty food only tastes good when you're starving, and the Giants are starving. There you go. It was set right on my screen when you said that.
Beautiful.
Twitter was an amazing thing. Yesterday, Denver gets Russell Wilson, and for the Raider Nation, Derek Carr became the worst person in the world because Denver got Russell Wilson. Okay, it was just amazing to me. And then somebody actually posted, well, I think now Denver is last year's LA Chargers. And my response was, yeah, a non-playoff participant.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm very interested to see how this goes.
So am I. Look, I want the Denver fans getting excited only to have them needing a parachute at about 5 weeks into the year for the plummet.
Yeah, you just better be careful because what happens with the Raiders next year? Who knows?
Super Bowl.
New coach. It could be a fluky thing.
Super Bowl.
You never know.
Super
Bowl. You never know.
It's a big gamble, this trade. Ooh,
yeah.
Gamble?
But the Broncos can't get worse than last in the division. So what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, why not? It's not, it might kill them for the next 4 years, which we get, but they've been bad for the last 10. So
I heard through an anonymous source, Calvin Ridley bet 1,500 on the Broncos to win the Super Bowl.
Oh,
is that in poor taste? Is that in poor taste?
Yeah, probably.
No, here's a good headline for the New York Post. Ridley, believe it or not. How about that? I mean, what's so ironic about all this is now that betting is legal where we are with a sports book and all of this stuff going on, there were years where the NFL didn't want to touch it, okay? And now you see every other ad, if it's not a lawyer or a car dealer, it's Caesars, it's DraftKings. And, of course, now the NFL season is over, but they're hoping that, people bet on hockey and basketball. But this thing with Ridley is just absolutely remarkable, and this is not unique, but it's really remarkable. And so a league would be suspending a guy for a year for betting on games that he plays in, et cetera. We've seen it before. It's just very ironic about how betting is becoming so passé throughout everybody else's lives right now.
It is ironic, but the NFL has, when you start talking about gambling coming into your sport, they're taking the money from advertisers. The NFL, I mean, my God.
Everyone would.
When I say NFL, the word immediately follows it as hypocrisy. That's what they are. Okay. But
no, every league is the same.
You're right. They're all taking
the league
money.
is different. The NFL is not different than any other league in that respect.
You're right. But the biggest fear of any of these leagues is that gambling infiltrates their game, because then you become professional wrestling. And that's why Ridley got suspended.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of ESPN. Jason Williams the other morning was on, and he was saying, well, the NFL should be worried about domestic violence. Yes, you're right. But Keyshawn Johnson cut him off and said, no, he goes, gambling, that's the rule. It's on the wall. You understand, and that's just the rule. Okay. And Max Kellerman actually had a great point. He goes, hey, he's guilty of being stupid. I know he was hurt. He was away from the team. Call a friend of yours and say, look, don't do it on your own cell phone. Just call somebody. If you really want to make an 18 parlay bet, go ahead, but have somebody else do it for you.
And just don't. Like, it's the one thing other than like PEDs that you can't do in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, there are very laid out rules. And I say that because you said it, Sean. It's a rule. It's a rule in every sport that you cannot bet on your own sport. Go ahead and bet on NBA games. Go ahead and bet on college football. Go ahead and bet on whatever you want. You just can't bet on your own sport. It's not that difficult. I work for the NLL. I had to take a half-hour course and just repeat after me. Do not bet on the NLL. Do not bet. I have to imagine the same exact thing happens in every single sport. So there's just no excuse. Like, you can't bet on the NFL. And I get it. A year's a long time. He's going to lose $11 million in salary. That's what happens when you're dumb.
Look, betting on games or fixing games as an athlete or official is a violation of ethics. As you said, it's right there. You're not going to win in any case. And betting has become, an advertiser sponsor. I get it. I mention official because you may recall a guy named Tim who was an NBA referee. When I was in the league, he was reffing, tried to find what games we had him, and it would take a while. But he was fixing games on point spreads, in the 90s. And
was it Donahue?
Donahue.
Yes.
Donahue.
And nobody would ever expect that. Those refs, he was one of the young ones. A lot of those guys, in their late 50s, 60s, credit that they can run up and down court. But getting an NBA job is like a baseball umpire or hockey job. You need something really to happen to get an opportunity. And here's a guy with a great future and wound up in prison, the FBI all over him. Absolutely ridiculous. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any other officials in a situation like that. That was a stain on the NBA, but not on those hardworking officials. And it wasn't the league's fault. And they handled it well because Stern was in charge.
He was betting over-unders as well, and that's something he can control.
He can affect
a lot of fouls and a lot of free throws when the clock's not running and the score is going up.
Yep.
Yeah, but it is the rule, and that's why we go to baseball. That's why I have no sympathy for Pete Rose. I don't think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame because he knew the risks. Okay. He had a major gambling problem, and then he flaunted it for years, and I just no leniency there. Those are the rules. Whether the rule's a good rule or not doesn't matter. It's still a rule.
And I think it's a good rule. It's a simple rule. It's a good rule. You can't have fans and people buying into a sport where it could be affected by the players and the refs. Listen, the refs, I think, take it to a whole nother level because, like you said, they can literally affect every second of that game. Is Calvin Ridley, if he drops one ball, you know what I mean? Like, is that really going to make a difference? If he catches, like, he can't catch more. You can only be as good as you can be. So whatever, you go out and be your best, and it is what it is. If he drops one ball or purposely does whatever, like, he can't really affect the score as much as you would think. But people bet on everything. People bet on how many catches Calvin Ridley will have in a game. People are putting their money on stuff like that. So if he's even just dropping balls on purpose, like, well, now you're taking money away from people who work hard to earn it and want to gamble as, who don't have a gambling problem, who want to gamble as like something fun to do, to be interested in a Falcons game when they're not a Falcons fan. And now you're taking that away. That's the problem that the NFL and any other league has with it, is that you're risking other people's money and also obviously the integrity of the game.
The thing with the ref is that the reason the FBI got into it is it was a deeper thing. He was involved with some serious shady characters, and he was in the hole financially. And so he was involved with people that his life could have been in danger for all we know. Not condoning it at all, but that was a deep thing. And this is not new, of course, for fans that don't remember, they call Black Sox. Watch the movie 8 Men Out. And if you think what we're talking about now only happened in the 21st century, you'll look back and you'll see some shady characters, for a team to come together and fix a World Series. To this day, it sounds absurd, but back then it almost killed the sport of baseball.
Yeah.
And fortunately, there was a commissioner in Landis that put it firm, said, you guys are gone forever, including Jackson, who I still don't think was part of it because he played so well. But you have to watch that movie and you'll see how this shady stuff has gone on for a long time, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. That's the way.
All right. Aaron Rodgers. He's back.
I mean, we talked about it a little. We knew. Well, did we know he was coming back? It felt like this was a marriage on the mend for the last season, right? Like, after the off season, things have continually gotten better. Everyone has said the right things on and on and on until you thought, yeah, he's coming back, right?
Yeah, he's getting paid, right?
Well, but he'll tell you said the ink's dried on the contract. He'll tell you he hasn't signed a contract yet.
That's correct.
According to him.
That's what he put out there.
Yeah.
I'll never begrudge anybody for going to get paid.
No,
ever. That's what it's all about.
You work in a billion dollar corporation, take whatever you can get.
Yeah, so the downside of that was they tagged Devontae Williams because I wanted him.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's going to. And they could still come to terms on something, but he's going to get paid $18.4 million this season. It's not like he's hurting.
No.
But nobody wants to get tagged. That's not something anybody wants.
Yeah,
I guess Scott Boras doesn't do NFL, obviously, because Rodgers could have waited and gotten more. And damn it, the guy can still play. He's awesome. He can still play. We've talked about, this top seed and not getting to the bowl again, but he might have been able to get more elsewhere. I'm glad that he could be finishing there. Where he belongs. He didn't get the Jeopardy jig. I thought he'd become the Bachelor and make it a running series because he would be a good fit on that show because he keeps treating ladies terrible. I don't like Aaron Rodgers, the way he breaks up with people, but that's his life, not mine.
The NFL had reported yesterday that he had signed the deal. So this is obviously has not been confirmed anywhere else, but the NFL reported 4 years, $200 million, 153 guaranteed. I bet you it's close to that anyway. But it's not like he's, again, not hurting for money. Dude's going to make $50 million a year. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, he's back. We get to have more fun with him. Here's the thing with Aaron Rodgers. A year ago at this time, I really liked him. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch in the league. What I don't like about Aaron Rodgers is I've gotten to know him a little bit personality-wise in the last year, and I don't like anything about it. So it's hard for me to root for him. But you know what? That's you be you.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone's going to like you. So it is what it is. I'm a little surprised that they invested or are going to invest so much into him, given the playoff failures they've had in recent years. They haven't been to the Super Bowl in quite a long time. They've won one, but it's been, I don't know how long, 10 years. That's a pretty big investment for an older quarterback that hasn't won the big one in a while. I know he's an MVP and he's a great quarterback, but once January hits, he's not been a great quarterback.
Yeah, and they called it a cap-friendly deal. I'm not sure how it is. I don't know the breakdown. I don't know how it's cap-friendly. It's just a lot of money, and that's for a team that literally can't afford to even re-sign some of the players that were currently on the roster. Like Zadarius Smith will not be back with that team because they can't afford to sign him. So not only are you not going to be – like they literally can't get better if this isn't a cap-friendly deal that like somehow magically frees up $20 million. You know what I mean? Like they can't afford to get better. So I'm not sure where we're talking about Green Bay being better this year than they were last.
What I like about the NFL, though, is what we're talking about is Green Bay, Wisconsin. A franchise there is able to put that type of money down. The NFL has larger rosters than baseball. Imagine the Pittsburgh Pirates giving a contract or something like that. That is more than their payroll probably in a 3-year period. And that is what goes back to Rozelle. That's the best thing about the NFL is that that franchise would have moved if it's in another sport by now.
You're right. Look, you got to have opponents. And that's the best thing the NFL does. It's shared equally. You know, baseball's a little different because everyone's got their own TV network, their own local TV deal. NFL's national, and that's it. But that's what makes it so intriguing that a Cincinnati can be the worst team in the league, win, 2 games, and then win 4, and then go to the Super Bowl. So that's how the NFL hooks us, right? They drive me nuts. I have dents in my head from slamming it off my desk here, and yet I can't wait for the draft. So
yeah. No, all of a sudden, everything about it is fascinating. I always used to use this example, and now you can't use it anymore because this example is infinitely interesting. But I would always tell people, I will watch any NFL game. It could be Browns-Bengals. And now I'm like, well, Browns-Bengals would be great. I'd watch that every day. But when the Browns and Bengals were both atrocious, I would still watch it because it's the NFL. So, you know, it just sucks you right in.
Cash is king.
And fantasy doesn't hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, folks, spring is here. We know that. It's March. It's a great time to get a new car at Mohawk Honda. Visit Mohawk Honda at Freeman's Bridge Road in Glenville to work with people you can trust during the car buying experience. Follow Mohawk Honda on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And this month, you can watch Mohawk Honda staff compete in the Plate Change Challenge. March not only brings you this exciting event, but throughout the month, Mohawk Honda and Chevrolet is collecting athletic equipment for underprivileged kids in the capital region. Bring your equipment to either location and help the community this month. To find the right price and right vehicle, the spot is Glenville, New York, and Mohawk Honda, where they always go out of their way
to please you.
It's quite the jingle.
All right. Baseball. Still no deal, right?
No deal.
As far as we know. But we don't want to talk about the damn deal. I know the MLB has come up on a lot of what they've offered, but there has been no decision. So we're not going to do breaking news, whatever. We'll just let that happen. We want to talk about the very interesting rule changes that have been proposed, not initiated yet, but that the Players Association has given and said, yep, on 45 days notice, the league can change these rules. We accept whatever. The 3 big ones, and I think they're all very interesting, and we can talk about all of them individually. The pitch clock, banning the shift, and bigger bases. I have very definitive thoughts on all of this, but I am going to let one of you take it away first.
Can I start with the shift?
Go right ahead.
Okay. The shift has ruined baseball.
Yes.
Okay. It has. Players are now taught that a strikeout is no different than anything else, and it's all about launch angle and exit velocity and all that crap. The problem I have with banning the shift is you're telling people how they have to play. If you want to beat the shift, hit the ball, hit it where they ain't. We Willie Keeler, man. You got everybody in right field and on the other side, second base. Go the other way. You're a professional baseball player. You should be able to hit the other way. Okay, that's my problem with it. But then I actually talked with a buddy of mine the other day about that. He goes, hey, the NFL regulates how many people you can have on the line of scrimmage, right? And things like that. And I'm like, that's not a bad point. I still just think if you want to lessen that shift, hit the ball where they're not playing defense.
Yes.
Okay? That, to me, it takes it away. All right. And if you're unable to do that, then guess what? Your batting average is going to suffer. And but the thing about it is, go back to it, it's become either a strikeout or a home run game, and it's very tough to watch on TV.
A friend of mine, I talked about to her about this too, because we had this down as a topic, and said, what if there had been an NHL rule where Bobby Orr could not have gone over the blue line, had to play just defense? It's like, oh, okay, didn't think of it that way, but I don't like the shift either. I think you're a Major League Baseball player. I'd like to be a hitting coach for a day, and I'd work on two things: going the other way and bunting.
Yep.
Because all these hitting coaches don't work on those two things. If I see a shift, you're telling me a Major League hitter can't close up a little bit, wrist a little tighter, and dribble it down to that big hole at third base? Of course you can. So traditionalists, I do not like the shift, and I hope that if it comes to it, that it does get banned. Where that's going to go. Ashley?
Yeah, I'm like you. I'm a traditionalist in that I don't like the shift, but I'm also more of like a free spirit and a progressive in Sean's way, and like, then freaking beat it. The way that you stop the shift is to beat it on your own. You don't need the league to come up and like, take care of you like mommy and daddy and freaking fix it for you.
Yeah.
Hit the ball. And I understand. So like for the first time in a million years and maybe forever, there were more strikeouts than hits last year. And I understand part of that is because you're not getting hits because the ball is not going through. But guess what? It isn't going to fix the strikeout problem. That's a them problem. You got to fix that. You got to actually put the ball in play. So even if you fly out or you ground out, at least that brings your strikeout numbers down. Hit the ball. Learn to hit the ball. And like you said, there are so many times where there's literally no one but the pitcher on the left side of the field. Lay a bunt down. You could walk to first base.
Get a double.
You could walk. The bunt might even get a double off of it because it'll get all the way to left field because nobody's stopping it.
Yeah.
So I don't want it just seems like the easy way out to ban the shift. Like if they want to play with 8 players in the outfield, that's their own freaking fault. Guess what? I would bunt it all over the place. But that's just my thing. You're not regulating where these players are as soon as the ball gets into play. You're not saying, hey, the second baseman can't come get a ball at shortstop if he can get to it. So why can you regulate before the ball goes into play? Why? It shouldn't be allowed. If you can't regulate it when the ball is live, then you shouldn't be able to regulate it when the ball is not live. I think it's a joke.
Yeah, otherwise, Sean, Derek Jeter doesn't make the play at home plate against the Athletics.
Right. He was safe for the record. You're right, but he was safe. Rest in peace, Jeremy Giambi.
But like, yeah, if they want to play with 4 outfielders, you're going to tell me they can't do that. If you want to play,
where does it end? Where does it end?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Say the center fielder can only go into left center just a little bit. What, 20 feet? 50? Where does it end?
Right. And right now it sounds like 2 people on each side of second base in the infield. That's stupid. It's freaking stupid.
It's going to be like right. It's going to be like the new cars. You know, the new cars where you drift and it goes. Are you going to put that on their uniforms now?
Ashley, you just said it right. They're running to mommy to fix it. Okay.
Right.
If I'm an NFL quarterback and I'm the last thing from an NFL quarterback, and there's the defense is stacking 10 men into the box to stop the run, throw the ball. Same thing.
Correct.
Same thing.
Yeah, and that's what I wouldn't disagree with. Like, don't limit where if somebody wants to stand with one person on the line of scrimmage and drop everybody else into coverage, or stand with the whole damn team on the line of scrimmage. Guess what? There are certain things you can do to beat that. Chris had mentioned something similar as the NBA banning the zone. Also think you shouldn't be able, like, why can't you play whatever defense you want? Just beat it. College offenses can run the zone defense and do successfully. My team is one of them. Hasn't been so successful recently, but like, you shouldn't be able to do that. And I'm okay with penalties. Like, they've changed the rules in football, which I get. You can't jam a guy after 5 yards. I understand it's affecting how you play defense. It's not affecting where you can be on the field. It's affecting how you can hit people, when you can hit people. That to me is still different than banning entire schemes. Like, and that's what I would call it, a scheme or a defensive plan or an offensive plan.
Well, again, where does it end? Are you going to start telling pitchers they can't throw the ball 99 miles an hour and you can't go over 95?
You can't throw a certain pitch.
Yeah, right.
You can't submarine. You can't throw a knuckleball. Like, what? It's not fair. You can't throw a knuckleball because nobody can hit it. Learn how to freaking hit it.
If a team's analytics department is saying that they should play 7 guys on the right side of the outfield, then you change the numbers that draw those analytics.
And lacrosse and hockey, for an example, a hockey goalie is limited. Okay, and the only time they leave is to get a water or a timeout or to fight another goalie, which is a lot of fun to watch, by the way.
Or the empty net.
Yes,
back to the bench.
That's right. And then in lacrosse, you can see goalies just take off and run to Europe or Rhode Island or whatever. Yeah. So it's different in that respect. But I'm really curious now to hear what you think about the larger bases, because for me, did like Bigfoot just sign a contract? Who cares about larger bases? The only advantage I see on this is stretches on throws, okay? In the hole where the shortstop throws and the first baseman becomes Gumby and stretches way out. And if you've seen Keith Hernandez and some of the modern players, guys are good at that. But what's with the larger bases? What's that all about?
Ashley, do you know? Because
I do. Yeah. So my first instinct was like, oh, are they protecting? My initial thought goes to like when we played softball growing up, there were 2 bases at first, one for the infielder and one for the runner. It's for safety purposes. So my initial thought was like, okay, it gives 2 big-footed guys, a first baseman, a little more room to be on his side of the base, and it gives a runner a little more room to be on his own side of the base. It avoids stepping on ankles and whatever. That's not the case. They literally are doing this or have the idea in mind to shorten the base paths.
How big is this base going to be?
Oh my God. It's such a joke. The stuff that they come up with is such a joke. A standard base is 15 inches. The base that they tried in AAA last season is 18 inches. So 3 inches, but you're talking about 1.5 inches. If we're talking about a square, you are talking about 1.5 inches on each side. That is this much, maybe this much room. Do we understand that it's not going to increase steals? It's not going to affect anything. It's literally not going to affect anything.
So you're going to turn Benji Molina, who needs a cab ride to get to first. You're going to try to think that he's going to become Ricky Henderson?
Right. Like more people are going to be safe because of 1.5 inches. Get out of here. Get out of here with this crap. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Now, what do y'all think of the pitch clock? Here's the thing. Years ago, the only people complaining about length of games was guys like me who had a deadline. And Ashley, you might have to get to the studio and put up a thing, and Eric wants to get out of there and go home. But to the fans, it was not a big deal. But now, Major League Baseball, it is way too long. I know they tried this in the minor leagues with great success. I'm okay with the pitch clock, and the biggest thing is keeping the batters in the box. And thank God Nomar Garciaparra is not playing anymore, and he gets out and he does this with his every pin.
Mike Hargrove, yeah.
Get in there and hit. Yeah, Hargrove, the human rain delay.
Yeah. This one is the toughest one for me because I don't mind the length of a baseball game. If I'm going to go pay $80 to sit and watch a game, I'll freaking sit there all day. It doesn't bother me. Of course, when I'm trying to get on deadline, whatever, that's a different story. I think obviously there's too much put into it because a younger generation doesn't want to sit and watch a 3-hour and 20-minute baseball game. Guess what? A younger generation in sitting and watching 3 hours and 20 minutes of anything. So it's not the game itself that they have the problem with. It's the attention span of the newest generation to be 20 minutes long. That is the problem. Most of them probably don't sit and watch a full basketball game, a full hockey game, a full anything. Everything is social media. They watch highlights. So to me, this is a rule for the wrong reason. Like, you are not going to make the next generation of people baseball fans. They're just not, you're not going to do it. I don't love the pitch clock because pitching is such an important part of the game, and you are affecting one position player, a pitcher and a catcher. You're putting so much onto one player and changing the way that they've done everything for their entire lives. And so we're talking about, they've experimented with this in the minors last year. They used 15 seconds with the bases empty and 17 seconds with runners on. They're now proposing 14 seconds with the bases empty, so a second less than what they experimented with, and 19 seconds with runners on, 2 seconds more than what they experimented with. To me, 14 seconds is like, you're throwing the ball back. You better be screaming the sign to them as you're throwing it back. Wipe your hands off, turn around, and throw the ball back. Like, 14 seconds is pushing it. They were experimenting with pitch clocks initially, like at games that I'd seen, of like 30 seconds. That seems a little bit more like in the way, and I get it. It's not fast, but 14 seconds and 19 seconds to me just seems like you're going to change the way that pitchers do things, which is unfortunate.
What I loved about baseball growing up, of course, now when I grew up, you had Bob Gibson, later Mark Burley, guys that would get it, throw it back. Let's bring up Jim Cott, okay, who's going to the Hall of Fame this year. The things you read about him, and they all say, Costas Gammons in an interview, they all said, he'd get the ball, throw the ball. It reminds me of, we were watching a game a few years ago in Detroit, and you could hear a fan. There was dead air on the announcers, and the fan said, "Throw the ball." And we just laughed hysterically. The reliever was he was stepping out. He was grabbing the rosin bag, throwing the rosin bag, shaking off signs, waving to the vendor. Enough. I don't like the idea of a clock in baseball. I'd like to see them try all these other things like limited commercial times. I know it's money, but limited visits. But I do think if it's a pitch clock, I agree with you, Ashley. That's just much too fast of a time period. And it does affect one position, yes, but the game has got to find a way to stop. I'm not looking to go back to the days of an hour 45, Sean, but seriously, they have to, especially now, to get these fans back, they've got to find a way, maybe about a 25-second clock.
I don't know what the right number is, and I don't know that that's the best thing. They're never going to cut the in-between inning time. That's money. Right. That's advertising.
No, they won't. No.
They'll never do that. That's the obvious one. What I'm just looking for is to be able to watch a World Series game, and it's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm using toothpicks to keep my eyes open, and they're in the 5th inning. Mm-hmm. That's what I want. And I don't know, that I applaud them for trying, for acknowledging the problem. And Ashley, when I go to a ball game, I don't care when it ends. I'm there, right? It's an experience. It's a fun day. I'm just talking about that Tuesday night game where I want to watch a little bit. I'd like to see a whole game and work calls the next day, and you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. And listen, the results were significant in the minors. They went from what they say was an average of 302, which honestly is not bad. Obviously, in the minors, you would hope it's not as long as a major league game because you don't have commercial breaks. But they went from 302 to 241. That's 21 minutes. That's a lot of time in terms of like actual physical time. That's a lot of time. I don't think Major League Baseball hopes to cut it by that much. I think if they cut it by 10 minutes on average, they would be over the moon excited. But yeah, I don't know if it's going to work. You're going to piss off more people, the pitchers, than you're going to make happy about it. And I bet you the players would be like, we don't care at all that they take a long time. We enjoy it. Can you do a commercial break for a mound visit instead of staying with the mound visit? So do a 30-second commercial or a 1-minute commercial instead of us staying on with, the broadcast to make up for maybe cutting commercials elsewhere. I don't know if it's possible because that's just dead time anyway. So why not try to shuffle things and take advantage of that? Or they do a lot of the picture-in-picture. And I know that that's become big in like almost every sport where they leave the broadcast up. Can you run a 15-second commercial while you're doing the mound visit? Can you find other ways to do it? I think you can. I just don't know if you can get as much money from an advertiser for a picture-in-picture. You probably can't, as like a full-on 30-second commercial in a break.
I just hope we don't see the day where we hear Kirk Gibson. I can't believe what I just saw. Kirk Gibson, it's a walk-off winning home run with 3.5 seconds left. Don't get carried away.
Right.
All right. Are we ready?
We're ready.
Ashley, why don't you go first?
Oh, I'm so excited for this.
Looking forward to this.
Me too. I've been excited about almost every topic today. Sean had to Google this, and I'm not going to lie. I didn't know. I've heard of the school before. I didn't know what happened until someone said, "Have you heard about this Bellarmine story?" And I thought, no, I haven't heard about it. So I Googled it. This is another story that I am just fired up about. So Bellarmine was a Division II school in Louisville, Kentucky. Their hoops team won their conference championship yesterday, the Atlantic Sun Conference. They beat Jacksonville 77-72. They're the only school in the country who's going to win their conference tournament and not go to the NCAA tournament. Well, that doesn't make sense. Why, you might ask? Well, you see, Bellarmine, this is their second year in Division I. They came up from Division II. The NCAA has a absolutely ridiculous rule, which you could not convince me makes any sense whatsoever. Maybe Eric can speak to this. I have no idea. That a school going from Division II to Division I is ineligible for the postseason, the NCAA tournament, because obviously they're in the postseason, the NCAA tournament for 4 years. 4 years. This to me is mind-boggling. If it was the other way around, I would understand. If you have a Division I team dropping down to Division II and you don't want some sort of dynasty, like some terrible D1 team who would be world beaters in D2 to come down and run the show, I get it. You're penalizing them, you're taking players, you're doing whatever. To penalize a Division II team from trying to come up and compete at the Division I level for 4 years, it's disgusting. It's a joke. You're taking opportunities away from those Division II kids who have, number one, earned the right by winning as much as they have in Division II. But not only that, they've now come up to the Division I level and they've done the same exact thing. And you're not going to let them go to the NCAA tournament. Shame on the NCAA for more than just that reason. But that's an awful rule and it should change as soon as possible.
Yeah, I said before, when I say NFL, I think hypocrisy. When I hear NCAA, I think stupid. STOOPID, stupid. That rule is stupid.
Can you explain, Eric? Do you have any idea?
Well, first of all, this is the school. When you said this school, I believe they're the one where the coach went to a local pub and bought rounds for everybody. I think it's the coach of that program, right? Last night.
And I'll go back to it in a sec. But yeah, give your.
Yeah, we'll go. But I can't imagine Bobby Knight or Coach K doing that. I mean, you try to do that and they'll never get out of the bar alive.
Yeah.
First of all, this school was a D2 powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And so to win a D1 league tournament in their second year of D1, technically, that's incredible. Okay. We're talking about the product on the court. To be able to have kids recruited, I mean, shows that the D2 powerhouses could compete at that level. Now, 2 years ago, Wright State considered moving to Division II. But then last night they won a bid, so now they have the money to make up for the $2 million deficit. But talking from an insider, let me bring up Cal Poly, where I worked. When I was hired, they were D2, but I was hired as they were transitioning to D1. Big West, baseball, basketball, different sports, the WAC, etc. You need some time once you have it was passed by the students, barely, but it did pass, the referendum. But you need some time to get ready to have a staff at that point. So you need more associate athletic directors, additional trainers. It's designed to give you the time to come in for compliance, for example. You have to have all those people in place. So where they came up with 4 years, I really don't know, but I have to say you do need some transitional time. What upsets me is the fact that there are schools, we see a couple in the league with us, where these kids could win the bid, but because they're leaving that league, they're expelled from the conference tournament. That to me is not fair to those kids. But Ashley, to wrap that up, though, basically there is a transitional period for staffing and all of the things that you have to have ready over a few years, whether it's 4, 2 would be kind of tight, maybe 3.
And I get that, but if you don't need the time, then you shouldn't make people take it. Like if my thing is like, hey, say you need the time to make that transition and you need XYZ positions and whatever, then maybe don't let them play in the postseason tournament at all. Don't let them go win the thing and then take the bid away from them. Tell them they can't play in the postseason tournament. Like I'd rather have that rule in. You can play in the regular season, but you can't play in the postseason tournament. Because now you're giving, like, they've rightfully won it. They bid to an NCAA tournament, and you're taking it away from them. And at the end of the day, I think, and this is just from a student athlete perspective, if I was a student athlete at the D2 level, that's where I was recruited, that's where I signed up, and you told me tomorrow, like, hey, you guys are going to go D1, but you're not eligible for the NCAA tournament, I'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it. Like, give us the opportunity. I think it's more about the opportunity for these kids, and I'm sure all those kids stayed on because, again, they're D2 athletes who are now getting the chance to compete at the D1 level. They probably never in a million years thought, well, we're going to go win a bid to the NCAA tournament. That probably wasn't even like on their minds at all. But now that they've done it, you're going to tell me they're not disappointed that they can't go? I bet they are.
Sure.
All right. Eric, you or me, buddy?
One other note on that is, we'll see now, folks, just take a look at schools winning it for the first time, how exciting, a big deal. And I want to give a shout out to the Bryant Bulldogs down in Smithfield, Rhode Island. They won the NEC bid. And my former assistant, Jason Sullivan's an administrator there, and he's dancing like all of them right now. So hats off to all those kids and the staff, trainers, and the media that covers them for those schools that will be going the first time in the men and women's tournaments. So let's stay on the court and talk about Pop. Greg Popovich. Imagine the winningest coach in a sports history coming from a small market. We talked about Green Bay, right?
Yeah.
Taking over as coach of the Spurs in '96. He's a longer tenured active coach in all major sports, every major sport, the big four. Hard to believe, actually. Pop is widely regarded one of the best in NBA history. And you know what's cool? He's the president of the team. Hard to fire a guy like that when a coach is the president. I am so old that Pop was in his second season when I went with the Warriors to San Antonio, and it was cool. They played in the Alamo Dome back then, and the bus went in, and we're like, we're going into a dome here. We lost by 21. We were 0-9 after that. But I regress. Popovich has the most wins in NBA history, regular season and playoff combined, and he's tied entering a tonight game with Toronto with Don Nelson for 1335 in the regular season. Winning record first 22 years, surpassed Phil Jackson most consecutive winning seasons. Absolutely amazing. If he's in New York or LA, there's statues of him, okay? And the Spurs have had a winning record against every other NBA team. How hard is that? He's got his 5 titles, one of 5 coaches in the league's history to have won 5, and he has his gold medal from 2020. Now, locally, San Antonio is the 31st ranked market in the country. Where we are, Albany, New York, we're just 29 markets behind them. And Phil Jackson coached here. So there's your local tie-in. The city of the boardwalk, the city of the Riverwalk and the Alamo is the city of Pop. Congrats to Greg Popovich.
By the way, I don't know if you guys saw our greatest sports photo bracket. Ollie Liston beat John Carlos and Tommy Smith, Mexico City salute on the podium in the finals.
Okay.
Now I have to update my board.
Okay, go ahead. By the way, Pop, Surefire, Hall of Fame, all that sometimes rubs me the wrong way. I know he's like a quirky personality, but I have a tough time when he like treats, we've talked about this too, treats young reporters like he treats people that he knows, and it gives them like the 3-word answer, and it's like over. The conversation is over. To me, that's not.
Yeah, he's done it a long time. And Sean, the cool thing to me with that game was that I got to see Tim Duncan and David Robinson play together.
It's awesome.
I tried to focus and I couldn't.
Yeah, I don't like the way Pop deals with the media. I'll give him credit. He showed up a very humane side when Craig Sager was sick and not doing well. He saw a different side. Probably supposed to kind of do that a little more. But all right. So speaking of stupid, the NFL Combine was just held. And my message to not only NFL people and all these people that run out and update their mock drafts, watch the game tape. Yeah, you know what? Seeing a 350-pound lineman running a 4.8 40 is awesome, but that's not football speed. Okay, running back running a 4 to a wide receiver. Put him in a uniform, a helmet, and pads, and give him a football and see what they run. That's more football. I don't care what a guy can broad jump. I don't care what his high jump is. He can jump up and hit the thing. They're great athletes. Of course they are. They wouldn't be an NFL draft prospect without it. I go back to the old story with Jamarcus Russell. Eric, get your penalty flag out. Where he said, well, he can throw a football stand at 75 yards while standing on one knee. And my response was, well, when the hell have you ever need to see a quarterback do that? Okay. So some of those things, I think NFL just does it now. Look, they do interviews with the kids. Great. Good opportunity for them. But most of that other stuff, it's not football activities. It's more they're training for the Olympics, for the decathlon. And what you see is guys get overvalued or undervalued. That's where you get a draft steal. Ask Philadelphia about Mike Mamula back in the day. He was the draft combine superstar of superstars, and he was one of the biggest first-round busts in the history of the NFL draft. So the combine, I can't stand it. It's almost irrelevant. Kenny Pickett's small hands. Can the guy throw the football or not? Okay.
How many of the three of us watch it, Ashley? Raise your hands. No,
no. I watched the highlights that they showed.
They're hard to avoid if you watch.
And don't get me wrong,
hard to avoid. But
I enjoyed watching the 350-pound man run a 4.840. I thought, he would have left me in the dust, and he's like 8 times my size.
Trust me, I wanted that 350-pound giant to be the Raiders' first-round pick 3-4 months ago when I watched him play at Georgia. Yeah. He's a great football player.
Yep.
But again, that's not football speed.
Yeah. But I think that's the difference.
I hope we don't have to do a top 10 moments of the combine for you two on a topic. But I will say some guys really make an impression there. It was 2011. J.J. Watt just lit up the place.
Right.
And so there are some guys that do raise some significant stock with their performance. But I will not tune in March to watch a guy jumping. I'll go watch a track meet instead, where that's what they do for real.
I'd rather watch a highlight tape of what they did in college on the field.
Yeah, and but this is the difference. That that's all happening already. So I think where the combine sets people apart is like, say you're drafting an offensive lineman and you've got 3 guys that you like, and there's not one that stands out above the other, or you're in the 5th round and you still need an O lineman or whatever it may be. Okay, then look at the combine numbers and say, you know what? I'm going to take the guy whose 40 time was 0.2 faster, who lifted 35 pounds more, and who did whatever. Okay, that maybe then you just take a flyer and that's your tiebreaker, and I'm fine with that. But yeah, there aren't any NFL teams who are going to be like, well, I'm picking that lineman because he ran a 4.840.
You'd hope not.
No,
it's not happening.
And they pronounce it wrong. I don't ever combine ham with cheese. All right. I thought it's combine.
A combine is something that digs up shucks of corn.
The English language is a doozy.
Read,
read. There's a ton of words that are the same exact word, and you just say them differently.
Potato, yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, this was fun.
Nice English grammar lesson there to close.
Yeah. This was a great show. I hope we have, it sounds like we will have MLB news.
One more?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to give some props to my Tar Heels for, the game they were going to get run off of Cameron Court. And when I heard the score, I was at a college hockey game, and I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And then I laughed again.
Yeah, listen, I told you I wouldn't feel bad, and I didn't.
Sorry. Still love Coach K.
Oh. Can you read that?
It looks like one begins with an 8 and the other one begins with a 4.
That's correct. My team has scored more points in this game than they've scored probably all season, unless they played against like St. Rose or something. Like I can never understand it. This team makes me crazy.
I'm picking them to win the NCAA tournament in next week's show. Just throwing it out there.
They will not be a part of that, which is fine. And I'm totally resigned to that fact. And I may enjoy it even more that they're not a part of it. But this team and the postseason, there is just something about it. Every time, and they'll lose tomorrow. But they're up 40 on Florida State.
Don't they have a bye tomorrow?
They normally don't even score 40.
Aren't they playing Puke University tomorrow?
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh my. You're only allowed to watch Texas, even though it's burnt orange. You cannot watch your orange until through the playoffs.
I know, but tomorrow it will be the time that I probably can watch them, and that's going to be unfortunate for me.
Can we do a live video stream?
Yeah, I'll put the GoPro up in the house and we can tap into it.
Very good.
All right. Well, this has been fun. We'll see you next week. March Madness.
Brackets.
This will be our Selection Sunday bracket show. We're going to get wild and crazy. Fill out some brackets.
Oh, wait a second. We owe a read. Uh-oh.
More.
Oh, read it up.
Wow, I forgot all about it. Okay, speaking of March Madness. March Madness is here, and this year you can compete with us, against us, in the Gozilla Media Bracket Challenge. Join us along with other Gozilla Media personalities in picking the Cinderellas Dark Horses Final Four national champion in this year's NCAA men's tournament. Top 3 finishers will get prizes thanks to the Albany Empire, Gozilla Media, and Hooters. That's right. The best place to watch all the madness is Hooters on Wolf Road here in Albany. With the best prices and selection of wings, drink specials, TVs, and more, the place to go is Hooters. Wednesday, March 17, Gozilla Media will present its NCAA tournament preview show on its YouTube channel, thanks to Hooters. And on Friday, between round 1 action with Levac and Goz live on location, in between happy hour to break down and preview all the action live at 5:30 p.m. Hooters is the place to enjoy the madness this month. Join the group today with a link in our YouTube and audio description on YouTube.
See, there you go. That was a perfect transition. We've talked about doing the brackets, and then we did more brackets. So
boom. Done.
Get up and beat us on the Gozilla Media brackets.
Sign up for Sean, I'd like the boys to pick, whether it's by color or just dropping a Skittle, and I will have Sarah.
No, they pick every year, and in my pool on CBS Sportsline, Noah won it when he was, I think, 2 years old. He won it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope they beat both of us, Eric. That'd be great.
So I'll give you Sarah's picks too. Thank you.
All right. All right, guys. See you next week. Thanks for joining us. Apple, YouTube, Spotify. Subscribe, share, all that jazz. Twitter @MMMATB1. We will post the show on all those platforms.
Very good. Enjoy your day.
See ya.